Welcome to Fighting Fit's Pilates workout. Glad to have you guys. Basically what we're going to do today is we're going to practice a little bit of movement. We're going to focus on core strength. We're going to focus on strengthening our hip flexors. We're going to focus on strengthening our hamstrings, our glutes, our lower back. And we're also going to focus on building a little bit of stability in the shoulder as well. Okay? So, if you want to join me guys, if you have your mat, get your mat to hand or a soft area that you're comfortable lying on your back. And we're going to start exactly like that, guys. Alright, so we're going to start with our feet flat to the floor. We want about a fist distance between our feet and our knees just slightly outside of that, alright? From there, you want to make sure that you have a neutral spine. So again, we have a tendency to extend the neck, and we want to just tuck that chin down. If you need a block or a pillow or a cushion to support the neck and stop it straining, you can do that. But apart from that, we're just going to tuck the chin to chest. Take big deep breaths. And we're going to relax into the floor. Using a big deep in breath. We're going to breathe into the lungs and stop the breath from going into the belly. The reason being is because sometimes we're going to want to breathe but not let the core distend. So we want to keep the tension that we have in our core, so just light, mild contraction in the abs. Big lateral breath into the lungs. Purse the lips to breathe and use that out breath to create a vacuum. As the air escapes the body, the abs will draw in, tighten, and we want to use that breath to get a better contraction out of our abs. And as the abs contract, we're going to get an ab workout, all right? So, nice and simply, isometrically working the abs through breath, feet flat to the floor, shoulders back, neck long, chin down. And just building that connection with the core. And the core being everything that's not your arms and your legs or your head. Perfect. And at all times you want to be able to hear your breath. So that's breathing 101 for Pilates. Next we're going to talk about the pelvis position, alright? So what we want to do is we want to tilt the pelvis, keeping your shoulders back and your chin down. We're rocking between the two positions. So one is creating an arch in the back, so my hand can fit underneath, and the other is pressing down into the mat. So what we want to do, obviously we want to get a balance of working our core and our lower back. So we don't quite want to press onto the floor, although for some that might be a more comfortable for certain exercises to focus on the core strength if the lower back's a little bit overextended. But vice versa, if you're very flat in your back, you want to also be able to train that little bit of curve in the lumbar spine and train them muscles to activate, switch on and strengthen as well. So the focus being about halfway, so just so the core is contracted, just so we have that little distance between, about a blueberry's width between the mat and your back. Alright, so that's our pelvic tilt. So we want to bring one, smush the blueberry, and two, create the arch. One, smush the blueberry, two, create the arch. And we time that with the breath we practice. Breathe in, breathe out to curl and contract and tighten the abs. Breathe into the lungs to release. Breathe out to contract. So we want to make sure that our shoulders aren't rocking, our head's not rocking, our knees aren't moving. So it is just that pelvic tilt. Keep breathing as you move, keep contracting the abs. So we contract the lower back to create the arch, contract the abdominal muscles, lower core, mid core, upper core, all together to pull, lower back to release, glutes on to pull, release to relax. Alright, and that's your pelvic tilts. So this is basically the move that we're going to use to create that stable base for most of the movements in Pilates. Alright, so first next we want to do is we want to talk about abdominal flexion. Alright, so how do we get the abs start working? Okay, so what we're going to do to start, we'll take our hands beside our head elbows wide. We don't want to contract through the elbows. A little bit's okay, but apart from that, keep the neck in neutral. You're going to breathe in, maintaining everything, pelvis in position to about halfway. Breathe out to create that tension with the abs. Breathe in to release. So we breathe out to contract, core tight, in to release. And you can hold for a breath cycle, so depending on what you want to do, you can breathe in to prepare, out to release, to stay. You can hold, or if that's too hard, you can just in, out for up, back in for down. You can even hold for a couple of breath cycles to build up that endurance when you're doing this by yourself. But for now, we're going to go for reps. So we breathe in to prepare together. Breathe in to stay, out to release. Breathe in to prepare, so again, we're following that rhythm of in to prepare, out, we lift, keeping the chin with a tennis ball distance between your chin and your chest, in to stay, out to release. Prepare, lift, lower, lift, lower, lift, lower. If you're feeling some shake in your abs, it's good. It means that the abs are starting to switch on and activate. Last one. Up and hold. And release. That's perfect. All right, so that's your abdominal crunch. So that's going to be a base for moves that we'll build up to later on. Next, we're going to discuss this tabletop. So the base position of Pilates for adding a little bit of weight onto the lower core and the lower back would be adding a lever, as we call it. So what we want to do is, have the core trying to maintain a steady base, increasing the length of a lever will challenge that muscle that's been pulled from the core. Let's say, so if our lower core is tight, the leg extends, the weight might want to cause the lumbar spine to pop up and the lower core to switch off, and we want to be able to extend and lift and reach and be able to keep this stable base. So that's where we're working from. So getting your pelvis into neutral, your shoulders back, your hands flat to the floor, core engaged. We're not quite smushing in, not quite creating a massive arch, but halfway in between. Core tight, solidify, lift, point the toes. So our arch of our foot's on, that's tabletop. Bring it down and back up. Maintain that steady core, making sure nothing that isn't the intended muscles to move. So basically what we're trying to do is trying to grip from our hip, our core, point from our arch of our foot and our calf. Bring it down, always breathing, into lower, out to lift. Moving nice and slow, nice and control. We're looking to feel the muscles starting to switch on for the first 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on your muscular strength or the severity of your compensation. Keep breathing. You might not feel it in your core yet. You might feel it in your lower leg or in your quad or anywhere that's not your hips, so anywhere that you're trying to compensate from. It can take a few movements before we actually look for the muscle to connect. And remember, the mind builds the body, so we must bring intention to the movement. We have to focus on what we're trying to achieve here, which is to get this segment here to work and our calf to work by simply creating that little point. And again, so everyone's trying to stay steady, the core is tight, but mild. 30% of your max capacity to engage is going to try and remain at all times, with the breath maybe causing a little bit more contraction. All right, and that is your tabletop. Essentially, there's 1, there's 2. We can lift up 1 and 2, feet together, slight distance between the knees, and you can feel that already if you're up here. Be careful if you have any back injuries, but if you're up here, you can feel if you've got the weight into your hips and you try and move the femurs only away, you can really feel that challenge in the lower core and the lumbar spine. And it can be a problem for most people when they do core exercises. They don't do them slow and mindfully, and what ends up happening is that they end up compensating, and the muscles that we want to work don't actually get the work. And so creating this little hinge here, we can just feel the pressure increase and take it away. Feel the pressure increase, take it away, keep it a little tuck, reach. Breathe in to draw in, out to draw out. And take it down and relax. Now, I think we're quite strenuous in the lower back, so what we're going to do is we're going to add a little lower back stretch, and we're going to roll over onto the side, up nice and safe, and we sit onto the heels, walk the arms forward, and just add a little stretch. And you can explore. Now you come around to the side, create that little bit of lateral flexion, so we're stretching up our side and back round. And again, we're only trying to achieve light activation work through the exercise, so the stretch doesn't need to be anything too strenuous, but just enough so you can feel it. Perfect, and we're going to move on to some cat-cow. So what we want to do is we want to be able to create that little bit of articulation of our spine. Alright, so we want the back to be able to move one vertebrae at a time on demand, or at least, you know, not large clumps moving together as they're fused, so the spine's rigid. And God forbid, if our spine's rigid, what would happen is anytime that you try and bear a weight through flexion, the spine is in a poor condition, and that's how we do injuries. So it's very important we get our hands under our shoulders, nice wide base, like ski shoes. Fingers or toes pointing away, sorry, the arch of your foot is on, your calf is on. Round up, tuck the chin, and we get a nice abdominal contraction. Lift the chin, release, lift the head, and it all comes into extension. And we come back, pull, into release, lift, tuck and squeeze. And we're trying not to sit back onto the hips or sway forward, but we want to keep that nice steady stable position. Round and release. Now there's two actions happening here. So we have the pelvis that's tilting that we practice from the floor, so getting control of this could be a level 1 move, so we'll try that. So just for the beginners, moving through the pelvis. And again, it's always good to just practice, no matter how experienced you are, moving your pelvis and shaking off any tightness that may lie from sitting or extended periods in a poor position, or maybe weight training, running, anything like that. And then you have the rounding of the shoulders, that's the pelvis, and we tuck the chin around the shoulders. And what might happen is you might find that you're only rounding the shoulders or only moving the pelvis, and we want both to create that nice big global extension or contraction of the core. So we want that nice flexion of the spine. Keeping the core tight and relax. And just sit back. If the arms get tired, we just shake them off. Maybe some nice big circles. And change. Again, nice and light. Don't be too abrasive with the body. We have to build that mind-muscle connection. Maybe change direction for a few. And change. And we're going to move on to some swimming. Okay, so swimming, basically what we want to do, just a modified swimming, is box swimming. We're basically going to try and activate the posterior delts. So if we sit and we slouch all day and we start rounding up, we develop into a poor position. And if we develop into a poor position, well then what's going to happen is we're going to compensate, and we'll maybe even start to solidify in that position. Muscles become overextended, certain muscles become hypercontracted and adaptively short, and we want to now be able to release them muscles. So, palm down, we lift. Palm down, we lift, and we're just trying to kiss the back of the shoulder with a little bit of activation. Using your breath, breathe in, prepare, out to move. Breathe in, out to move. Breathe in, we can even hold. Through breath, and release. And release. Three more. Perfect. And just shake it off, give the arms a little break if they need it. And remember, that's all upper body. What we want to do is we want to start working the lower body as well. So when we sit, the hamstrings get adaptively short, the glutes switch off, and the lower back starts suffering now because of the difference in the pelvis tilts forward. The lower back can really become really weak. So what we want to do is we're going to have an exercise that's going to hit all their muscles at the same time. The posterior chain, as they're called. Take it up, bend in the knee. We're going to pull the toe down and lift. Now try and keep it straight. If it deviates a little bit, that's okay. But we want to be able to lift, pull, and try and contract through the hamstring using your breath. Breathe in as always to prepare. Two more. And set it down. You can really feel that. Starting to engage the hamstring. Then we change side. Take it up, pull the toe down. Strong through the hands, wide base. Keep your core tight. Three more. Squeezing the hamstring, the glutes. And draw it back in. And we'll sit with the feet out in front. And we'll have a little hamstring stretch. So just rocking forward and back. If you need a yoga block or a Pilates block or a pillow or a cushion, we lift underneath the butt. Maybe make the exercise a little less strenuous if you're really strained to even sit up in this position. So if you find it hard to get your back straight, you might want a wee block underneath. And find myself getting pulled down through the hamstrings and the lower back, all that tight tissue. But again, as long as we can achieve the stretch, we're gravy. Using your breath as always. And hold. Checking the wee timer. Alright, and we're going to sit up. Feet flat to the floor. We're going to do some half roll backs. So as you can see here, my pelvis is curling and lifting. So as I do this, squeeze the abs, lift through the lower back. Squeeze the abs, lift through the lower back. Squeeze the abs, lift through the back. Trying to keep the arch of the foot alive here and your feet flat to the floor. Squeeze the abs, lift. Squeeze the abs, lift. Squeeze the abs, lift. Squeeze the abs, and lift. And we're breathing. Breathe out to contract, into lift. Out to contract, into lift. Out to contract, into lift. Real mindful contractions of the muscle. Arch of the foot on, trying not to compensate, hands on, and you can lessen the hands. depending on how much you need them to maintain good form and proper position. And you can challenge yourself and see where the trem or terror starts to come in. And we want to really try and get them abs and maybe even your hips start doing a little bit of work. And if you're feeling the strain, you just release, lie onto your side, grab your foot and reach back. And we'll just stretch out the hips and the connective ab tissue. Let your chest separate from your abs. Let the knee draw back. And we get some oxygen to the muscle. And we'll switch up nice and slow, nice and safe. Changing sides. Again, grab the toes, grab the foot, wherever you can. And set it down. Good stuff. And well done. That is our 20-minute mat Pilates workout. Now again, the benefits for Pilates all come through mindful muscle connection and experience practicing your body. So that's what we really want to achieve here, is not exercising or essentially working out, but we want to work in, and we're not just moving, but we're actually taking time to slow down and practice the moves with precision, mindfulness, and timing our breath, which will bring in an element of coordination. Some of the exercises can even be quite challenging to move or maintain certain positions, so we're building coordination through the exercise in that aspect too. As always guys, we appreciate you for joining us for the workout, and I'll see you in the next one.